as always. Hope you guys are having a great week so far. It's American Thanksgiving today, so maybe if you guys are into football and some other things, you can have some of that American Thanksgiving spirit as well. Okay, we're continuing the web segment in our Photoshop class. I'm going to continue where we left off. I know we had a week off last week. I wanted to give you some time to work on your assignments and projects as we're pretty much up to date with all our material. And today we're going to continue with the other stuff I was going to show you. All right, so let's go ahead and continue now with my screen here. I just realized I have to unlock the module for today if it's not already unlocked. So let me just do that for you right now. Let me see here. This one here. Okay, so you can have access to module number 12. So this is like week 13, class number 12. This is a homepage mock-up file here. You can have a good example of how this is going to be done. Sometimes I have to remind myself what the updated files will look like. So what I'm going to do is simply just download them now and have a look at them with you. Before I do even that, let's just have a look at our overall, expectations till the end of the semester. I think we're all pretty good up to far. I don't have anything major to announce or any critical stuff. Everything's going smoothly so far. Good job on your part. Keep up the good work. We do have another assignment I'm going to give you, and that's going to be probably next week. Okay, it's the motion design assignment. We're going to do some motion design in Photoshop as well. You're going to have some fun creating basic GIF animations. So this one is quite the fun segment. One of my favorite ones, I must say, for teaching Photoshop. And by the end of the last class, which is the 14th, we're just going to wrap things up. I don't know if you're doing presentations in my class. Since we switched to virtual, usually I think Roberto takes over the presentations. You might do that there. We're just going to do an overall review and catch up on some things maybe we can dwell into and then fill up some gaps if we missed any. Okay, so that's what the last class is for. We might even continue some more motion design settings. I know in the past, some students asked me to teach them another software called Adobe Animate, and I was quite happy to do that because I used to teach Flash way back in the day before I got discontinued. And Adobe Animate similarizes Flash quite a bit. So if maybe we can have a chance to have a crack at that, it'll be fun as well. It'll be a nice little overall fun class at the end as well. So we'll talk about that in a few weeks, of course. So that's going to be unlocked next week. I'll just keep it locked for now. I don't want to overwhelm you with too many things at once. Let's look at these files for now. I'm just going to click on the homepage Photoshop file first. Because this is something I'll have to show you today when it comes to the image assets. This is the important part as your composite assignment 2 that you're doing the group for the band. And this is just another example of how we just created a website with image sources remember last week we did I'll open up the same file so you're more familiar this way with what I'm showing you. But here's another website that we put together in a previous class. This one had like a nice hero banner going across, had a logo, the menus. I mean, this is all done in layers, of course. The last 2 classes that we did focused on how to build this from scratch. I'm sure you watched those videos already, and you were also in attendance. We followed the 12-column structure, which is a common denominator by 4, 3, 2, 6, 1. So you can do lots of interesting things with this because a lot of web designers use the same structured column layout. But the big question is, how do you convert this into an actual website? So this is why you're learning HTML. So once I show you in this class how to export the image assets accordingly and properly, you can then plug those assets into your HTML build. And once you have a plan like this, you have the design, the colors, the visual setup. It's really not that difficult, especially if you're learning HTML, to put this together in the development website phase, or I should say the web page design, because development's a whole new different segment. So from prototype to production, basically. This is just another example that I have there for you, so you can look at that one. Let's see what this other file is. Time to clean up my desktop, I think. These are the image assets. So we produced image assets from this mockup here, which I'm going to show you how to do in this video. So I'm going to download this one as well. And then we have the website asset mockup and design file also. So I think I have two files here. Let me just open those up. Well, all in all, there's three files, very important. And like I said, I'll follow up from last week, like our files that we did here. And so this is it right here. Right, there's just a folder. So if you notice, this folder pertains all these assets that created this mock-up for this web page. The important thing is for you to understand how to optimization works, as we did cover this in the other classes with slicing and things. And that used to work, it works even today. But 20 years ago, that was the way we did things. Things involved in the past few years with Photoshop, they created this automated plugin which what it does, it exports your layers with the proper extensions that you're going to generate. It's going to create these image assets in a different way than slicing, okay? Because I know I showed you both ways. Now, my job is to show you pretty much, what professionals use, and those are the two methods. It's up to you to pick what works best. I would lean more towards the image assets. This is why if you look at the composite assignments project expectations, you do have, just look at it here for a second. Composite assignments. So I'm looking at the generating image assets. So this is a requirement for you to show me that you know how to do. So what I'm showing you today is very important that you implement as your exporting feature for your website. Multiple artboards, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So these are the last two things I'm going to point out today with us. This other stuff here we already did. Layer organization and management, image placements with the frame tool. We covered that in the last video. And then slicing was an added feature I wanted to share with you for you to know how to do for next semester, because we're going to be doing prototyping and stuff. You might find that useful for other reasons. As far as this particular assignment, the composite to the album art that you're creating, I'm looking at these 2 points here. Well, 4 altogether, but those are the last two I'm going to demonstrate today, because I don't think we covered that yet. Along with, of course, as you're aware, there'll be separate grade components, for each assignment for every class. Like you have I think you have an Illustrator component, you have a website component. I don't believe there's a typography component in this one, and there's definitely a Photoshop component. So this is the big one. You're going to show me how to use, you're going to maybe integrate some layer mask. These are just suggested points that you should be considering. Various selection methods, of course, generation of assets, which I pointed earlier. Layer styles are optional, but it could help with the overall presentation. So things like you have some headings or some titles with some, outlines or some drop shadows or some bevels that might pump up that segment. So if that helps you with the layer styles implemented in Photoshop, then go ahead and do that. Complete mockup, including the home page, along with the navigation, etc. So basically make it look like a website. Don't just make it look like a design of some sort. All right, so these are the main points. And it's the vinyl, not the CD project anymore. That's the only little hiccup I found there. All right, so basically today we're going to cover those 2 points, as I mentioned to you earlier. And let's continue with where we left off last time, because that's important to kind of connect the pieces, right? So this is our class 10. So we created a wireframe of a website. It looks like this. We also looked at the importance of creating wireframes, and you saw like the CNNs and these other websites that were created with the similar wireframe methods. Then we took the actual wireframe and we placed images inside of it using various methods. A lot of the methods, and again, this is in the previous videos if you watch I'm sure you know already from the other classes. Then we did image placements. So basically, we converted this one here into this over here. Once the client approves the design, you can pretty much do, anything you like. You can put content and text and images, videos, anything you like. You just have to fill those boxes with content. We also went a step further. What better way to do a presentation of a website than delivering it online on an actual browser? So for that, we use the slicing method. Now, this is not a requirement for this composite assignment, but it's something I like to show my students because it's very important. As you can see for yourself how important this is. This is our web ready folder that we made. And if you again remember where we left off last time, we did a file export save for web, and this is when we optimized all the slices and they became images. So all these slices that you're looking at became separate little images that makes up the website. Okay. And of course, the HTML is the glue that puts the website together, as you know already. So if you open this up, we have a fully uh, a fully visible presentation of a website. The thing is this, up until 2010, this was still a very powerful method because it worked. There was no smartphones, so we didn't care about people browsing websites on their phones back then. We had Blackberries and Nokias and stuff. When the iPhones came out and the Samsungs and Androids, obviously more websites are responsive. So you're not going to get the responsive part done. This is why you're learning what you're learning in Felicia's class, learning the HTML, because you're going to be obviously creating responsive websites. So it'll respond to, a tablet view and a mobile view and things like that. But if you're presenting a website from the beginning, this is not a bad option because it still looks like a website, and people that don't know any better, they'll think it's a website anyways. No one's gonna go on their computer and test it and see if it's responsive. We do that because we're the ones that are delivering this product, right? All they're gonna do is look at it and say, yeah, this looks pretty good, and they're gonna maybe recommend changes. They can change this image, put a different image, maybe add another menu on the list here, change this image here, swap these two. Like that's the kind of revisions you might get. And then once you do that, then you go and make the website. Okay, it just makes more sense. It's so much easier to do this than for you to put your hard effort into it and make it done. Now, on the contrary, you could make this a website and do the changes as well. You just make sure you communicate properly with your clients and what the expectations are. All we had to do to achieve this was export the file, open it with an HTML editor, could be any text editor. I'm using brackets. I know you guys are using Visual Code and things like that. And we added the background color black. You can also put 0000000, the hexacode with the hexacode number sign. And we also went to align equals center. This is something Photoshop doesn't do. Okay, so you have to make the presentation look right, do the little things, whether it's adding a background color and centering your design. Okay, those are the only things you have to do. My graphic design students would love this because I think HTML was taught differently back in the other school and they didn't really like this stuff. So when they looked at it, they ended up getting a little bit anxious and overwhelmed. So I just told them, relax, it's easy. So I went through the basics and stuff, and we made a table, and I just showed them to add this tag here, add the BG color over here, and all they had to do was that basically, and leave everything else alone. And I promised them that'll work just fine, and that's exactly what happened. So, like I said, this is great for presentations and creating, using Photoshop as a tool to create website prototypes or even demos on browsers. Okay, thanks to this HTML feature. I mean, it's still there. If it wasn't usable or useful, why would Photoshop still have it integrated in its own latest 2025 model version? Same as the slice tool, right? It still has its good uses for it. Okay, so moving forward now, besides doing this for that particular reason, uh, looking at your project that you're doing for now for us for the composite 2, this is not required. I don't want you to do a sliced version. Okay, what I want you to do instead is export the image assets in a different way. Okay, and then to demonstrate that, I'm going to use this Photoshop file here that we left off from last time. Okay, and generate the image assets very similar to the ones I demonstrated earlier with the examples here. This was just another example I did with the last semester students. Okay. I just don't want to do the same stuff all the time. So I'm gonna, with you guys, we did something like this, right? A little different. All right. So let's go and take this and generate those image assets. And not just that, create multiple pages because you are going to have multiple pages for the band website that you're making. Let me see if this one had multiple pages. I don't think it did. Just one page. Now, when you're creating multiple pages, I think I already showed you this from the get-go or from the start. You can create a new file, let's say, and you can create, the website width could be, go to the web format here. You can make, the most common. I like medium, to be honest with you. A large would be too much, like 1920 pixels. Sometimes even it looks too much, has a little extra width on the browser. So this one fits nicely. Remember we measured Amazon last time? Amazon measured at 1500 pixels. So 1440, even 1500, you can bump it up a bit by like a few pixels and make it like Amazon's width, 1500 pixels. And you can go with that requirement for now. Okay, so take one of these, modify it slightly. Let's make this 1000. Okay, now I'm going to leave the artboards on to show you how to create multiple artboards. Resolution always stays at 72 because we're making websites, we're not printing. Remember, we did more resolution as we printed the book covers and all the other extra stuff we did previously, movie posters and stuff. For websites, always 72. And the color mode is RGB color because, again, we're not dealing with a CMYK. So just remember those things. I wanted to maybe reiterate that. Artboard stays on. Background color can change. You can even make it transparent if you wish. Okay. We hit the create button and there's our page. And automatically you have an artboard set up. So now you can basically go ahead and once you click on the artboard at the top left corner, like this, notice how Photoshop automatically switches to the artboard tool instead of the move tool because they're located in the same location, which means with the artboard tool, you can adjust and resize the artboard. I would suggest you do the height. Never, ever, ever do the width because that'll mess up your entire setup, okay? So the only time you want to do this artboard tool is when you want to add more height to the website because as you know, some of these websites you can scroll and scroll forever. So you can basically do the same from a design standpoint. Now to make additional artboards, you can hit this plus button. It'll just do that, okay? So I just misclick there for a second. So if you misclick like me, if I click here, right, it deselects. The trick is to, if you click here, you're clicking inside the artboard to select contents. If you click on the top left corner, you're letting Photoshop know that, hey, you want to deal with the artboard selection. So if you click one of these little plus buttons, it'll just replicate that page. So you could make, there's your 4-page website design. Okay, I'm just gonna zoom out, hold the space bar, move them all up here. Okay, same thing if you want to go down here and hit the bottom button, there's your page here. You can go do a page there and do a page here and do a page over here. Now you have an 8-page website. Every artboard is treated differently. So if you look at your properties here, every artboard can have its own layer stacking order, okay? So there's artboard 1, there's artboard 5, there's artboard 6, artboard 7. You can rename them, rearrange them any way you like. Okay. To delete artboards, you simply select the ones you want to delete. I'm holding shift right now. I'll press the delete button and I'm back to artboard number 1. Similar to Illustrator, maybe a little more finicky or less finicky, any way you look at it. Um, it's just how you create artboards. 10 years ago, this was not possible. Maybe a little more, but I'm around the 10-year mark. Same as Illustrator. Believe it or not, it took till 2016 for Illustrator to have multiple artboards. It was, it was about time because to have one artboard, you're limited to one page. And then if you want to create a multiple page design, like a brochure or a business card or something, you literally had to create two separate documents, amalgamate them in a PDF document format, and create a multiple page delivery. Okay. Same as websites. You have to make separate pages and then kind of join them together afterwards. So it's about time they came up with a multiple artboard solution. Hence why, there's the artboard tool in both programs. And another reason was obviously we used InDesign to create multiple page documents. You're not supposed to use Photoshop and Illustrator to do that. So in Illustrator, you would set up your multiple page files, not Photoshop, not Illustrator. But the demand grew for designers to have more freedom and they wanted multiple pages in other programs. So this is why, the developers have to deliver what the designers want. So now we have multiple artboards, okay? Because this wasn't a thing in the past, right? All right, another thing you do with artboards, you can hold Option. Like you can drag the artboard to duplicate it. I like this method because it replicates the design and you can just change it up here. It's a lot faster and easier and more efficient than you recreating a design from scratch. So this is the big thing right here, duplicating artboards, okay? You can also go right click and you can also do duplicate artboard this way. And then just give it a name, click OK, and it duplicates it. So it's a more effective to do that than you designing, why would you want to design things twice, basically, right? Just like your HTML, you do your code, and then you copy and paste your snippets and stuff. All right, so this is just the basic breakdown of artboards and how they work in Photoshop and what these buttons do, these little plus buttons, and how to select it and duplicate it. Now, let me show you this in a more fundamental way with a design itself, which is something that we did last week or the week before. So I'm just not going to save this. And I will open this file here. This is the last one we did together. So if I open it up, I believe this one is also sliced. Okay. Slicing doesn't work well. This is the generation gap between, using one method over another. Slicing doesn't work well with artboards. This is why I was very specific not to use this with artboards at all, because it could really mess up the way the exporting is. So it's either slicing or non-slicing. Okay, so I would suggest you do non-slicing because today we're going to show you how to do the image assets, which is a generated plugin from Photoshop. Okay, so this is, again, good for something else. For other things, one-page designs. I showed you some templates also, the truck template, some other ones. A lot of these templates have one page because a lot of websites sometimes have one page also, and they just have all pages all within itself, and then you create other ones from that one. So slicing is only for this. So I'm going to basically, to demonstrate this better, what I have to do is get rid of the slices. Okay, so I'm going to go to the view. I'm going to go to the bottom here where it says clear slices, and that's exactly what's going to happen here. But before I do that, I forgot one thing I wanted to show you, which is in my mind here. To have this multiple page design, just to make this further, maybe I can dabble this next semester a bit just to show you how slices work. If you double click, you can add URLs in the slices, which means you can create a web page. You can have this go to another page, right? So let's say, I want this to go to an external website or something internal. I just give it a name to go to that page, like page2.html or something, and that'll do just that. You can also set a target, message text, and an alt tag. So this was the cool thing about about the adding more links to the slices. We might do like a quick little web page mock-up next semester in the UX UI class, and that'll kind of explain that better. Okay, just one more thing I want to mention. So let's clear the slices because that's done with that part. What we're gonna do instead, this is our nice design here. We have our call to actions in a separate folder. We got the header put together like that. We have the body and we have the footer. Okay, so it's nicely organized. To create multiple pages from this one, because we started it without the artboards. We're like, oops, I forgot the artboard button. So now what do I do? We can basically select the entire, layout design, right? And we can right click of the whole selection here process, and we can basically create artboard from layers. Or if we create a new artboard, they might do the same thing. I'm not really sure. Let's try either one. Right, just makes a new artboard. It's like a blank artboard, which means we can drag these in here. I much more prefer we do this. We select the whole entire thing from the layers panel. Because really, this is where all the content is. Got to make this smaller because yesterday in the class, the projector always increases my resolution, so everything gets a little smaller and tighter and stuff. There we go. All right. I need my space, so that's why I'm making sure this is enough. So we select the entire selection here of all our content, which is the background and all the other elements, the groups that make up the website design. We're going to right click and we're going to create artboard from layers. This is only if you didn't check on that artboard button from the beginning when you wanted to make the website. And I demonstrated that earlier with the blank artboards I made previously. So if you forget or you don't forget, you're always in control. You can do artboard from layers and you can call it, let's call this the home page, okay? Or you can call it index if you want. So home page. You can even have preset if you want to make like a mobile design for iPhones and stuff, you can do that. But we're not, we already have a width and a height set up from here. So we're going to leave it alone. It's custom. And that's that. This now became an artboard. And if you want to take off the artboard for whatever reason, you can do likewise. You can right click and you can say um, on group artboards. And that'll make this back to normal without the artboards. So you can always switch it back and forth. I don't recommend you do this, but if there's a reason for you to make one or the other choice, then this is how you do it. So let's right click again and create an artboard from layers. We'll call it home page. Not to be repetitive, but I want to make sure I explain things thoroughly. So this is the home page artboard. All right. So now we want to make additional artboards. Okay, we want to make, let's say this is the band page. You guys are creating a music band web page. So let's say we're creating another page for this one. So that means I'm going to go ahead and click on the artboard tool. You can right click and you can duplicate this page or duplicate the artboard. When you duplicate the artboard, it makes the same thing. This will be about page. Well, let's do products. Let's keep it relevant to what we're doing here. So this is our products page, right? So there's the products page right now, done. And you can keep making additional pages if necessary for your other ones as well. So products page, home page. All right. I got to get rid of this slice option here. I know I cleared the slices, but I want to take off the view. It just kind of looks distracting here. There's no more slices. Good. Sometimes there's like leftover slices when you use them. It's like they never want to go away. Right. Um, there's no more slices there. Right. Anyways, so there's the products page. There's the home page. And to create other pages, you simply right click and you create the other pages from there. Okay. So then you can edit the page because if you know the websites these days, you hardly change the nav bar. The top always stays the same. What you change is basically the contents over here. So to do that, you can do it several ways. You can either recreate the actual design or you can actually go ahead and recreate the actual layout as well. Okay. I think this is messing me up a little bit because the slicing feature. So I'm going to use another example for this. Maybe use a simpler one. And then take out the slices here and just lock them. And everything is locked as well. That's another thing that's doing all this. Just going to lock everything. All right, that's a little better now. All right, so I can select now, auto select layer. Let's go to the home page. And let's get everything locked here. All right. I should have done this before I replicated the page. So you know what I'll do? Maybe I'll leave this locked actually on purpose so I won't mess up my other selections, but I'm going to open up the other layers. I think here we did the um what's it called? The clipping masks. Okay, we did the clipping masks here, not the frame tools, because we mixed it up a little bit. So here we did the clipping masks. Clipping masks are okay, but I wanted to show you also the frame tool example. So you know what? To be honest with you, I don't think this is the best way to show you this. I just don't want to have any issues along the way. So let me open up the other one. I know we did two examples, so maybe I'll use the other one. It's just simpler and easier to get the message across. I don't want to confuse you at all. So let me just class 10, class 9, week 10. Here's the one. Okay. So this is the one we did. And then we did the frame tool on this one. I think we did two different ones. Let me just open up this one here. Right. And this one was using clipping masks as well. I can tell it's clipping masks because I can see how the layers are indented. If I hold Option, they're gonna lock and unlock. Remember that? We did the right click clipping mask, so you can just right click. Um, Release clipping mask, right? Or you can just go to layer, create clipping mask. You can also do right click. I don't know if you can clear it this way. I just like to use the Option button like that. I'm looking at this image here and then right click again, create clipping masks. But I like to show you both instances because what's the point of, you got to know both, right? So I'll show you the clipping masks and the frame tool so you can execute on both levels here. So let's go do me a favor. You got to click on the right here. Otherwise it won't show you the clipping mask option. There it is. So you can right click around here somewhere. You can release the clipping mask or add the clipping mask. All right. So let's do the clipping mask as example. No slices, okay? No slices, clipping masks. Um, I'm just going to go ahead and make this into an artboard as well right now. Make sure everything is unlocked. Good. Just want to be able to freely select things around. All right. So basically, I'll just do a very quick example of how to make the pages and maneuver the layout around. I'm sure you guys can do a better job investing more time doing this. I'll show you a few examples, and then I'll exemplify how to do the image assets along the way. All right. All right, so we're going to go ahead and convert this into an artboard again by selecting, I'm just going to delete the background layer just to keep it nice and clean, which will give me the transparency here in the background. So maybe I should just keep it there as white. That's fine. So I'm going to select the whole thing again, right click. So we're going to select artboard from layers like I did earlier. I'm going to call this the home page. And there's the artboard, right? Now look, I can move the artboard as well, just like I would a normal artboard in the corner. So I can just hold the space bar and do the same thing. And then we're gonna replicate the artboard. Again, if you click on the little plus button, it'll create a new artboard, which is what you don't want to do. To replicate it, you can hold Option from the top using the artboard tool and just create another copy along this way, just like you would in Illustrator and other programs, right? Another way again is to right click here, duplicate artboard. All right. Duplicate artboard. There we go. I was looking for a shortcut. I'm going to call this products or products page. And this is the one we're going to modify, right? So in here, we're going to go inside and we're going to modify like the layout and design. Again, it's easier to do it with the frame tool. I'll be honest with you. This is the clipping masks work well to use as a design tactic, but to move layouts around, I much rather do it with the frame tool. You guys remember what I'm talking about, right? The frame tool. Um, I'll find another example we did last week for that example as well. But as far as this is concerned, let's go ahead and shuffle this around. So I'm going to select, maybe I'll select these images here. I don't want to spend too much time, designing this thing from scratch, but you get the idea because we did all this. I'm going to select all of this, except that part. Another best way to select it is if you kind of lock the header so you don't accidentally select this image here because it's in a clipping mask form. The body is all this stuff here. So I'm going to select the body group. I'm just going to select all these elements this way. Notice I'm dragging the cursor like I would in like Illustrator, like an object-oriented fashion. And this ensures that I select these 4 items. So if I move them around, you can clearly see that's what I did. Okay, I'll do that again. You can just drag the mouse with auto select layer enabled and you can select all 4 of them. Alternatively, you can just select the items or the contents in there and replace them with other elements as well. But I wanted to do a little more, you know, various ways of doing it. So it's a little more different, not just changing pictures, but even layouts. So in that case, let me just make sure I did it right here. It's better if you put this in groups as well. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab all these items here and do Command G. Okay, so this is all grouped now. And I'm gonna make sure this group that I have is all placed inside my folder here as well. So maybe I'm just gonna move the group inside the body. There we go. And make sure the header is separate. All right. And the body's here. And the group will be all the way on the bottom. Just going to drag it here so it doesn't clip everything else out, basically. All right. I think I took one of the clippings from it as well. So I got to be careful how I do this. I'm going to back it up a little bit here. You know what happens when you have a group inside a group, you got to be careful because the way this was designed, I had them on different levels and areas here. So you can easily kind of disturb the whole thing. I'll just do it this way instead. I'm going to move these 3 images. here. It's better if I group them as well. I just caught the wrong group accident there. You can also change auto select group on if it's easier to do the group once you have the folder selected. But something's messing me up over here. Trying to figure it out. Maybe it's this clipping that I'm selecting. Okay, anyways, let me just do this for now, and then I'll mess around with this group stuff after. I'm gonna leave auto select layer. It's gonna change this image a little bit. I'm getting a little too specific here. So I'm gonna select this image here. We're gonna double click on this image and replace it either this way, or I can just put another image in its place. Let me just keep it simple, then I'll get into the more, I'll set it up a little better so I can maneuver it easier. I'm gonna replace this one with another image, so maybe I'll place this one here. And again, I much more prefer to do this in the frame tool than doing this clipping masks because they get a little confusing when it comes to rearranging the design. As you can see, I struggled a bit there. So I'm just gonna keep it simple. Right, there's the All Stars one. Right. So let's say I want to substitute these two. It's a lot harder to do it this way. So you know what? I should pull up the other file. Why am I struggling with this? So same thing, you just go like this, you move this over, right? You do this layer, and there's your replacement image, and you can do the same for all of these. But as you can see, I was having a difficult time rearranging things around, especially when I have clipping masks. So it's a lot easier when you have the frames, okay? So let me just do a simple thing with this, and then the frames is so much easier when it comes to, adjusting your layouts and stuff, even changing pictures, right? Same as this one here. If you want to, change the picture again, you got to identify it. In this case, it's this image. Make sure you select it. And when you drag something else in its place, or you just replace it, sometimes it's even easier to do it this way. Let's say, because this frame tool wasn't always around, believe it or not. We have to do things this way. So you have to like double click, open this image, right? And you can just replace it with another image and just save over it. Okay, so let me just demonstrate that part. Um, let's change this one here actually. So if you double click or just select once, it selects the layer. Double click on the layer, it opens up the image. And if you put something else in its place, you just do this one here, for example. I'll just delete that picture there. As soon as I save this, that's asking me to flatten the layers. So we're going to go flatten layers. See all the steps you have to do this way. Then you save it. As soon as you go here, right, it does change the image that way. Oh, it's the same one there. The same original font or location, right? Um, like I said, it could be very finicky to do this, replacing images this way with the clippings because you have to do a lot of drag and drop and stuff. Whereas if you use the frame tool, I'm gonna pull up the frame tool design. So good thing I'm going through this, so you guys don't have to struggle when you do your websites. Okay, just stick with the frame tool. If you're gonna do, if you're doing a one-page mock-up design with slicing and all that, fine. Clipping masks are good. As you know, clipping masks are good in Illustrator and all the other programs. The frame tool has more of an advantage when it comes to maneuvering your layouts around. So let's just go with that example. It's better. All right. slicing 10 and frame tool. So there's the frame tool example and this one here. Okay, so just to lessen the confusion, so this is the frame tool we did, I think that same week, but I demonstrated two different ways of doing this website. So the frame tool is easier because you just simply drag and drop. And if you want to move it around, you simply select the whole thing and you can just move it like this. So I can just move this over here and select these three images, move them up here and move this over here. You see how easy it is for me to do this with the frame tool than it was for me to do it with the layout, clipping masks. I mean, honestly, I can still do it. I just have to organize my groups better. If I had no choice, I would go back to my layers, spend maybe a good half an hour organizing my order properly, and then maybe creating subgroups, and then I can maneuver those around and then replace the images. But why do all that when you can just make it easier with the frame tool? Okay, so use the frame tool officially, stick with it, and you'll have no problems. So let's go back to our example here now. So I'll use this one, okay? So I'm going to create this into an artboard first because that's the first thing we should do. So I'm going to select the whole layer structure here, right click, and we're going to artboard from layers like we did before. Home page. All right. Let's say third's a charm. All right. So then we're going to right click from this artboard here and duplicate the artboard again. So this is the about page. And if you have like a band website, you are probably going to have an about the band page as well. You might have another link that says merch. The band might have merchandise they're selling, which is tied into your Illustrator class. You might have like songs and lyrics and things like that, right? So I'm going to stick with two for now, and then let's worry about the other three after, okay? So let's do home and about. Home stays the same. About is the one we're going to modify. So what are we modifying is maybe this image here, okay? So like I said, it's so much easier using the frame tool. Here's the frame tool right here. Than it is the layer clipping masks because for multiple pages, I think it's easier to do the frame tool. Absolutely. So how do I swap this image with another image if I'm doing, let's say, a picture of the band or something? Let's just use these images for now. So I'm going to substitute this image with this image. To do that, you simply select the image that is contained within that container, and I simply just drag and drop, and it'll replace that image with this new image. Then you select the image within from here, you press Command or Control T, and you just resize it accordingly. Right? And let's say this page is different altogether. Like I don't need these frames over here. I'm just going to press click and delete them. And I'm going to select these three. And again, look how when I say these three, I mean, you can just easily select from here, like shift click, right? Whereas before it was a little harder for me to do that. And then this becomes maybe a different layout and design altogether. Okay. I'm going to select the frame tool or the frame itself and extend it maybe this way. Perhaps put a few more design elements down there. So it's a lot easier for me to modify the layouts using the frame tool. Again, I'm going to repeat myself for this because it's important. I don't want you to struggle using the other method. So stick with the frame tool for this one, okay? It's just better for this. And here I might have, yeah,
Can I ask a question?
absolutely. Go ahead.
So in, I want to say Illustrator, there's a function where you can fit the image to the frame. Does that happen in Photoshop? So that your sneakers, when you brought them in, you could still get that whole image. It just kind of downsizes it to fit the frame. See what?
You mean InDesign has that feature, I think. I think it's in InDesign, right?
Okay.
Or maybe Illustrator might have it too. I'm just not familiar with the Illustrator feature, but InDesign does have it's an auto fit option, right? So
Yeah.
what happens is, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Let's try it. Let me bring in, so if I select this one here, because it doesn't give me choices when I drag and drop. If I select this one and bring this one, it just goes like that. Depends on the size. If I bring in a different image, if I know if I bring in these other ones, because these are large images,
Yeah.
um, they usually do. Let me see here. If I select the frame instead of the image, yeah, this is the same option here. I know at different times when I dragged it in, it did fill it up based on its parameters or size. But anyways, you could do it this way. If you select the image here, if you select the image here and you go to File, Place Embedded, so you're using the menu option instead of dragging and dropping, that might give you a better substitute. And then I'll go to my folder here. Just dig into that same location for a second here. Fall GDPW, and I was under this one here, the frame tool. These are the image sources. Got it. Okay, so let's try to bring in this image here. Now look how big this image is. It's pretty large, right? So if I select that image, hmm, I know there's a way. It's just let me try it again here. One second. Command T. This is the original one I substituted. There. Like it does, it should work. You see what I mean? I just did it right now. It depends on the initial image I had. It was small to begin with, and it automatically was trying to fit that corresponding parameter, like the width or the height. But if the image is blown up like this one, you can easily then substitute the other ones. See, this one's small, that's why I didn't do it. But these larger images, they should fit. Do you see how that's happening? You see that, right? So they should work. Depends on the image, how big the image is, and the actual widths and heights that come with it. But there's no option, I think, for that box there. Just to answer your question.
Okay.
Who knows? Maybe they might come up with. It's very basic. There's no fitting parameter. Okay, maybe in the next version, who knows the update, they might have like a little option you click on to maximize fit. So for now, just resize it. And again, it might work for you. It's weird. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So try to maybe drag and drop it and see what happens when you try it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay. You're welcome. All right. So then I'm going to just dress this up a little different and just change the page altogether. And I'll see if I can. Yeah, that is a good thing though to have the auto fit option. Absolutely. Especially if you're swapping images around. And I don't want to do this and change this to the other one and save over it and then go here and then updates. That works too, but you're jeopardizing the original image itself. So you don't want to do that. That's only if you're like permanently deciding to change something, right? Right. So I'll just risk it for now. Just to here, I'll have a copy of this one, right? If you do that, no, it's got to be linked, mind you. So you got to link the image and basically change the, let me just invert it. I just did a Command I and I'll do Command S. And when I come here, it replaces it. You see what I mean? You can do that too. Or you can just replace it with something else, copy paste, and then because it's a linked file, it replaces it that way. So if I go back again, invert, Command I, Command S, I save over it, I go here, it updates. So you can do, that's another updated trick you can use, but drag and drop should do the same thing, okay? All right, let's put a little element here. I wanted to put a block of some text, so I'm gonna quickly just do this. And I'll put some text as well. about the band page. Wow. I'm just making the text a little bigger here. I'm going to center it. And yes, this is a text box that I placed within that additional box that I designed. And keep in mind when you do these text boxes, it's good if you have the fields instead. Instead of me drawing a text box, sometimes I prefer to have a text field instead. It's just more manageable. So if I do Command V or paste and then move this on top, it's just easier to manage than having like put a text box if you need to put a text box. Don't just put one because it's no other. You're not given another option. So these are two pages about the band page, the home page, um, right? And whatever changes you want to make, you do it on the actual page itself. Make sure this is all set up here. So this is the about page. Good. Maybe these should go in the body as well. All right. So you get the idea, right? You duplicate pages, a lot advantageous using this frame tool to change stuff than the clipping mask option, as you can see from me demonstrating different struggles here. I, you know what? I honestly thought it was a lot easier with the clipping mask, and I didn't realize how different it was just by trying to move things around with clipping masks. You can really mess things up because you are nesting folders or images inside contents, and that can get really overwhelming if you have like 20 layers and they're different locations within the group. Yeah, it could get messy basically. This is a lot more organized. All right, so here's the artboard tool. Let's make another page very quickly. So once we design this one, right click, let's do another duplicate artboard page. Okay, we're gonna call this services, right? So on the services page, we do the same thing. We change things around very quickly. I'm gonna go ahead and select this image with the bike. Maybe I'll change it with this other one here. And it's funny when I bring this image, it does it to this one does it to the full size, whereas these other ones don't. I think it's just the way they're the size itself of the image. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring the sneakers back here. And again, if it doesn't do it for now, as I think it was Danielle asked me, you can just resize it for now. Maybe it's better because you have more control when you do it this way sometimes, right? I know it's more work, but you're really doing one image at a time. It's not like you're doing 100 images and you have to go through all 100 to change it. Let's do another few here. Um, so I think it's the ratio too. It's the ratio of the box and the image that's basically being considered when you do drag and drop stuff. I'll just move that one around here. Just make sure you select the box before you drag and drop, otherwise it might not work fully, right? So here I have 3 different pages and 4 or 5, as many pages as you need to design. All right, in Photoshop. Just keep in mind, organize everything nicely here on the layers panel. As you can see, the pages are first. They're the primary selection source. As you see, there's the home page, there's the about page, there's the services page. Within those pages comes the content. Because I organize them nicely, it's easier for you to modify and change. All right. Let me just change this one to services. Services page, okay? And to maneuver this back and forth, it should be very easy. Unlike the other way I was trying to do it, it was a lot difficult. Look, I can even move this here and select these two with shift and move this up here and then move this one back here. Like, see how easy it is to make, maneuvering your design back and forth. It's like you're using InDesign, okay? And Photoshop could be a little tricky, as you know, with layers and stuff. But using this frame tool and you're doing layouts and designs and websites and stuff, I mean, it's a lot easier using this tool. That's why they did kind of bring it forward. So you can see three quite different design pages now because it's just looks better that way. Okay, so now what? So now remember, slicing is out of the question. That was good for doing like a one pager mock-up, styling it for a browser presentation for the client kind of scenario. This is for helping you with this composite two assignment. So this is what you have to do. So aside from, creating the page, the design, using the frame tool, changing the layouts, creating multiple pages because you're going to have the band page, you're going to have the homepage, the band page about the band, their merchandise, and maybe their songs. I don't know if you've seen some samples already, but from what I remember watching, countless of presentations, that's what I remember seeing from most students. Okay, so you might have a similar thing, but obviously your design will be different and everything else. So now what happens is this. To help you build the actual website, what you do is how do you take it from Photoshop into HTML? So what you can do is you can import all these graphics, all these images, everything that's to the right size and optimized properly. You can export them in a folder, and you're going to call that folder image assets. And all you have to do later is build this the way you see it in HTML. So you put like a header up here, you put a hero banner image, you span it across three columns. These are three columns here in a section by itself. This is another section with four columns. You can build that in HTML quite easily by now, I'm sure. And what you do in there, you just put the images in there, and there's your website. And of course, you put links in the nav bar. Once you do that once, you can copy it to the other page, right? That's all HTML copy and paste stuff. The main thing is how do you get the images properly optimized for that scenario? So once you have the plan and the design, all you do later is tell Photoshop to give you all these images optimized, ready to go for the website, but no slicing. So how would that happen if it's like this? How would we take these little bits of images onto our website? So let's start off with this beautiful pattern that we have, right? So we're going to go to our home page right here. Oh, this one still has a clipping mask. So it's good because I'll demonstrate how to do a clipping mask export as well. Remember, I did everything with the frame tool except this one. So I'm really happy because I wanted to show you both. And this is the only clipping mask that I have in the entire design. Okay. All right. Good. Um, what do you want? Some clipping here. Oh, it is there. I'm just using an overlay design. That's why. I was like, why is it not showing everywhere? All right, let's put it normal. So obviously you can see how it's clipped, right? A little bigger here. So because it's clipped within a bounding box, like the rectangle here, option click, right? So it's there. The trick here is to export that as a source. I should have just to keep it consistent with the other ones. Should have left it alone, but that's fine. I'll leave it as is. What you want to do is this. You want to move these over. You want to clearly have a visual of your layers like this. And because this is contained inside this rectangle, this is the container. This is the layer clipping that we created. You name this here. You name this rectangle to the extension in the file that you're optimizing. Yes, it's that simple. So this is going to be called header. I'll keep it lowercase nomenclature so it matches my web standards. So header banner dot PNG. Yes, I'm putting an extension in the layer. Why? Because I think this image it only has like three, four, five, six colors, maybe different shades. And PNG would be a perfect format for graphics like that. PNG would be also great for logos. Okay. Also, SVG is the new one now. SVG is another one that Illustrator can produce and Photoshop too for vector graphics. So you can have a logo placed in here and export it as an SVG, just putting the SVG extension here. Maybe I'll demonstrate that and I'll put a logo or something to show you. So you can export everything from here by putting extensions on the layers. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but it's not. It's actually very simple. So the only exception is this because this is inside this container here. So therefore you name this container that extension name. So not the image, the clipping mask itself, which is this one. That's the only exception. All the other stuff, you can go ahead and do it on the layer itself. Like this one here, this is in a frame box, the frame tool that we use. This will be called carousel. And just to kind of, I was curious the spelling here, carousel. Carousel. Okay, I wasn't that far off. Carousel. This might be an image carousel that you might have in your website, or maybe just a hero banner for the band. This is a carousel, and we're going to put dot JPG. So I want that to be a JPEG. Therefore, I'm going to put a JPEG extension. So yes, you have to know your extensions to do this. There's only a few. There's JPEG, PNG, and maybe a GIF. GIF we'll do next week as we do the animations. That's when we'll do GIF. SVG is another one for like I'll do SVG for this because it's not a logo. I know it's an object, but it's a vector file, right? It's a block or it's an element of some kind. So this will be maybe SVG. So I'm going to right click on this rectangle and call it footer dot svg. But honestly, you should do that with logos. Don't do it in footers. It's just a box. Either way, it'll work. It'll recognize the vector form and it'll export it as svg. Okay, so this one now is taken care of. Carousel PNG. Now this next image here, okay, same thing here. We're gonna call this shoes 01. So use like zeros and ones because if you have shoe 01, shoe 02, shoe 03, you can go up to 99 with keeping it all sequential. That's why I like to use zeros, not just shoes 1, 2, 3, 4. Because if you get to 9, then you go 1, 0, 10 will overlap the 1, which will conflict the names and the numbers. So always put zeros in front of the ones. And if you do like an extensive website with thousands of images, then you do the 001. Okay, that's just a tip for you. So this will be also shoes1.jpg. I'm going to copy this, and this will be shoes2.jpg. And this will be called bike.jpg. So I'm using image extensions for these because they are images, okay? I'll call this girl JPG. This one will be called mountain.jpg. This will be called light tower or tower.jpg and sneakers.jpg. So a couple of tips there, having repetitive names like 0102 or just different names. You can see all the images are perfectly saved as the right JPG extension. Now I'm going to give you a link of a tutorial on what this all means. I think it's already on my module. If not, I'll paste it in there. It gives you a clear description of all these different extensions and names because you can even put JPEG 5. I can put JPG, and if I put a 5, that means it's level 5. Level 5 means it's medium quality. If I put 9, it means very high quality. These are little codes I'm going to share with you, okay? Don't worry about that, though, because honestly, without that, you're still getting good stuff. Because by default, you're getting 90%, which is what you want anyways. You don't want to compromise this and put like a 2 because it'll give you a low quality JPEG. So just keep it simple. Keep the extensions as they are. Photoshop knows what it's doing. Okay, the PNG is another one. By default, you get 24-bit, which is millions of colors. So if you do like this the banner here. I put a PNG. If you want 8-bit, you put PNG 8. 8-bit is only 256 colors. If you put a default, PNG will give you 24 millions of colors, which is great. Sorry, 24-bit gives you millions of colors. So don't worry about the numbers, but rather than if you want to get technical, you can just leave the extensions. So here I utilized all my extensions. I put JPEGs for all the images. I put a PNG for my top graphic, which is just a pattern with limited colors. And this is a bottom block or a logo or anything like that. I can make this an SVG. Okay. So once I do all this, how do I then convey this message onto my website? And does that mean I have to do the same for this one too? Yes, you do, because guess what? These are different images. This is a bigger image of that. So you have to go in here and do the same thing. We'll call this one here big bike.jpg. This one you don't have to do again. If something's repetitive, think about it. In your HTML, you can reuse the graphics. So this one here, you can reuse it here and there. You don't have to save this two more times. Does that make sense? So once you save the same thing, even if it's one of the images being repeated, use the same image. You don't have to save the image twice if it's the same source. Now, this one could be tricky because it does have a background with text. It's like a text element. And some people like to keep this like memes on the internet when you see on social media. Sometimes images are part of the text is part of the image. So for that to happen, you have to create like a group. That's the only way to export this together, both of them at the same time. So in the body group, I'll make another subgroup. I'll press Command G, and this will be called about call or call to action dot PNG, because this will be now a PNG of this graphic that I'm going to export and place inside my web page. Do you see that? So yes, groups do work really well for this as well. Very strategic to put groups to combine items as one file extension for your websites. All right, what else? This is another one I call the right box. I'm going to call this bike2.jpg. This one will be shoes 03 because I know I have a 01 and 02. I got to keep track of this stuff, right? So you can put 03 JPG. This
You
is
know,
more shoes 04.jpg. Yes.
so that about the band page,
Mhm.
in order for it to export properly, you had to put it in the you created a group, and did you put that in the group? Because I didn't see that.
Yeah, so that group there happened to be inside the body group itself is a group of its own. In that, there's another group of that. So there's like a folder and a subfolder. Follow me?
I do, and your text is in there because I don't.
Yeah.
I
So
oh
if I
okay.
open it up, there's the text layer and
Oh,
there's the black
okay. Gotcha,
rectangle.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
No, good question, because that's the only way for me to export both of these together. That's the only trick. So by putting a group, same way, I can group all these three images in a group and export them, and they'll export as one item. Do you understand? Like maybe I'll demonstrate that here on the other page. I like the question you asked me because some people get this mixed up. So for this example, it's great because you can put two together as one in a group. That's why grouping works really well with this method here. And these are all JPEGs because they're all individually, right? This one is repeated. I'm not going to save the rectangle again. I'm going to use the same SVG file from here, right? Make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, excellent. So let's go ahead and do the next one now. I got one more page to go, the services page. So this one now, same thing. There's a group with this and this. I want to save this as, as one item. So I select both layers. I press Command G or group them, and I'll call this services box, okay? Dot PNG. So that's going to be a PNG now. Photoshop will export that as a PNG file. And let's say I want to export these three images together as one item. I don't want to do each one, right? Just to show you other alternatives here. So I'm going to select all three. And the trick here, okay, is grouping. So Command G, so grouping those images, right? And I'll call it three images.jpg, right? So now you'll see how Photoshop will do very cleverly. It'll export those three as one item. Not that you want to do that. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you want to group things on purpose. But a lot of times, most likely, you're going to export them individually, like I did in the other examples. Okay. But to show you the power of what you can do is why I'm doing it. All right. Next, do we do this one? No, we didn't do that one. Let's do this one will be sneakers banner dot jpg because it's a photo. Anything photographic should be a JPEG. Anything that's kind of graphical without, it's not a photo. It's more like a logo or a pattern or some kind of a design with, and you can see the colors are less than like 10 or 20 very quickly. Do a PNG. It's going to be sharper and cleaner and even a smaller file size in most cases. So everything is now, nomenclaturized. That's not a word. Nomenclature means a proper term for naming files or extensions or terms to have the desired meaning to execute the right thing. So we're using all the file extensions for that reason, and that's how they're all saved. And then we have, yeah, the pattern again. You don't have to repeat stuff, right? So everything is, I think, good to go here. All my pages are done, right? Now, very importantly, once you're done doing the design, you're doing the file extensions for each layer, right? What happens now is go to File and you save it because I don't believe I saved this yet. So I'm going to save this on the desktop. Okay. I'm going to call this image assets design. I'm going to save this on my desktop as a Photoshop document. So it's a Photoshop document. It's important that you locate it because you can easily mess up your files. I'm sure right now you have, just like me, you have lots of files floating around on your computer there. So this is the Photoshop file, what it looks like. And you can get a quick little preview of all the 3 pages that you're saving, right? So when you hand me in your composite assignments, give me this file. Give me this file, and you're going to give me the next thing, which I'm going to show you, which is the image assets that go with it. And this will help you with the website because then you can take those assets and plug them into your HTML. And everything's going to work out perfectly because they're all going to be sized accordingly. Like all these little images will be exported perfectly for you. Like how cool is that, right? You don't have to go and crop each image and save each image and name it and stuff. Photoshop can do all the work for you. This is why this is a perfect system. You do the design, not only saves you a lot of time, but it communicates strongly with your design team, your boss, your client, your colleagues, whoever. You're all on the same page. This is what you want to deliver, and then you develop the website. Okay, it's so much easier that way than you just making a website on the whim and just guessing what images they want and colors and stuff, right? So communication is very important. So now, how do we get these images? Okay, that's the big question. And I know we can do the design. We've exploited different ways how to, use the frame tool over the clipping masks has its advantage in many ways when it comes to maneuvering. But how do we get these image assets now exported? So guess what? Just when I thought Photoshop moved this feature on me, it used to be under File, Export, okay, and you would have image assets, but it's gone. It's no longer there. So I panicked for a second. I was like, wait a minute, where the heck did it go? I had to literally go to help and type in image assets, right? And then I realized later it was under the plugin section of the automation of the Photoshop. So this version, if you have an older one, if you have Photoshop 2024, it might be under the export setting. If you have the latest version of 2025, it's going to be under the file automate generate plugins image assets. It's well hidden. It's a hidden gem, as they say. Better yet, do what I did under the help menu. You can type in anything, okay, like copy, and you can see all the different. Photoshop can give you basically not just Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, all the Adobe programs have a help menu. You can identify where each command is. Let's say you don't know what compound path is in Illustrator. Type in the help menu, compound path. It'll show you where it's located, which, if I remember correctly, under the object path menu, compound path. So you can actually look for everything under here. So now that we know, we go to File. So first thing, we save this on the desktop. Remember, very important, because this will automate and generate the image assets in the same location of where the file is being saved. So I did make sure I saved it onto the desktop, because all I have to do now is acknowledge that by going to File, Automate, Generator Plugins, Image Assets. This is like a light switch. Like, remember a quick mask? You turn it on and off. If I turn this on right now, it's going to activate. And that means everything that I made here, it should make a folder on the desktop and export all my image assets. Now, I don't know about the multiple artboards. I might have to select all of them, but let me just double check. So how do you double check? You go back here first, um, under Automate, Generator Plugin. Look, it's checked. You see how it's checked on? That means don't check it again. If you check it again, it'll uncheck, if you follow me. So once you click once, leave it there because it'll dynamically do its thing. It's like AI at its best. This was even because now you're communicating remotely to your desktop, like it's live. Whatever you do now, it'll update that location, like a website on a server. If you change the image, it'll update the image. This is how you're communicating with your image assets and your design file on the desktop. Now, let me show you how this works, because now that I showed you the path, let's see where this, oh, there it is, image assets. So there's the folder. I pulled it from the corner there. If I open this folder now, what you'll see, and yes, this is a beautiful thing. All the image assets are there. All the assets from all, I didn't have to select all the artboards. They're all automatically exported for you. Look, there's the three images that we grouped in one file called 3images.jpg. There's the about call to action that we grouped purposely with the text in the black rectangle of a background. Remember, we grouped it, we called it about call PNG. There's the big bike, the big banner that we had in the second page about us or something. So we exported that as a JPEG. There's the smaller version of it called bike.jpg. Again, resized, ready to go, plug into your website. There's bike 2. I don't know why I saved both. That was a waste. But whatever. You can keep one or keep both. It's up to you. Just save yourself some time. This is the carousel we had in the first image called carousel.jpg. You might have multiple carousel swapping images, so you save multiple ones to make the carousel work. Then you have the shoes 1, shoes 2. There's another box, service box. Basically, there's the pattern, the PNG of the pattern that we saved. There's the girl JPEG. There's the SVG file. SVG gives you a weird preview. It's got that white bottom, but believe me, when you open this up, it should just be a rectangle in your logo format, okay? And there's shoes 2 and 3, another waist, okay? It's replicating the same image. But just to show you, that's what happens if you do that, just like this one is repeated. So you don't have to repeat the images. If it's the same image, just place the same image. You don't have to have it two locations, two different names, unless you have a different variation or size or different version of it, then that's fine. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Okay, so that's the magic here about thing. Now watch how powerful this is. Let's say I want to go and say, listen, this image here. Let's use this as an example. Let's say this is a JPEG, right? Let's say I accidentally save it as a PNG file. Let's say this here was this is a JPEG. How big is this? It's about 426 kilobytes. If I save that as a PNG instead of a JPEG, PNG. So now I changed the extension to PNG instead of a JPG because I have this automation enabled. Okay. I have this enabled. See how it's still checked on. I'm not clicking. I'm just showing you because I have that enabled. What Photoshop does is directly communicate to this folder and save this as a PNG right there. See, it's PNG. And the difference is I can show you in size. PNG is a lot bigger. It's 1.4 megs. So let's say I made a mistake and saved it a PNG, not a JPEG. You got to think about it. When people look at websites, they use their phones, their data. Look, you pay for data on your phone, right? Everyone pays like 40, $50 of 30 gigs of data these days or whatever, something like that. And then it becomes unlimited, but then it's slower. So data is important, even today's age. Like even 20 years ago, where like websites were so slow to load. This was a big thing. Even now, believe it or not, we still have to consider images to load faster. In result, Google ranks your page better with search engine optimization. Naming images properly is important. Don't just call them untitled or whatever, image one, image two. Give it a proper name when it's linked to the website. So if it's the band's page, give the band name like the Beatles opening tour .jpg. So it describes the image better. And then you put alternate tags. This is a whole lesson. I'm not going to get into that, but there's a lot of tricks and strategies when you name images and files to appear on Google search rankings. Another one is size. The bigger the image is, the more chances are Google will try to not, it'll drop your ranking basically. So when you have saved something like this, a PNG where it's 1.4 megabytes, which equates to 1,361,139 bytes, that's wrong. Like, why would you? This is a waste actually. So you're just wasting file size and space for the same quality image. So in this case, let's say we did that. We'll go back to Photoshop now. We're like, listen, we made a mistake, way too big, and you should check your file sizes accordingly. Let's change this back to JPEG, JPG, right? And click. Automatically, because the automation's turned on, Photoshop will change this back to JPG. Look how big it is now. 426K. We just saved like 60% of the file, which it adds up on a website, right? Because this whole folder, if you look at all these images, this whole folder, which this folder will help us um, support 3 different pages on the website. It's only 2.9 megabytes. Like that's nothing, right? 2.9 megs for 3 pages of a website. So you can really, if you're smart optimizing these properly, that's where the real advantages of doing this properly. That's why it's called optimizing websites, optimizing images for websites. Now let's say I want to cut more file. Let's say even this was too big. 400K 20 years ago, this would be like pretty big. Like, guys, come on, like this will really slow down the website. So let's reduce this even smaller. So how do I do that? So then I go back to Photoshop and I'm like, listen, we got to do a little better than that. So instead of JPG, I'm going to put 65, which should be 65%. 65%. Okay. So I'm putting a percentage sign. I'll show you all these little names and stuff for you to get from thing, right? Now look at this. So there it is, the same file, 200 kilobytes. So because I put 65%, I reduced it by 65%. The quality now is less too. It still looks good to the eye. It still looks pretty nice, but the quality of it is lessened by, I guess, 35%. So it's 65. Well, it was 90. So subtract 90 from 65. That's probably 25 or 35, 30, 30, 30. Yeah, 25 actually. Right. 25% or 25 differential. So consider that kind of stuff if you want to get really micromanage your optimization images. You could get in there and basically minimize images by putting percentages. Honestly, don't concern yourself with this now. I'll give you a whole bunch of options to do that. Another thing you can do, let's say you want to change this to, I don't know, You want to invert the image like that, right? I'm just inverting it. I don't want to change it or put something else in there. It'll automatically replace that image from Photoshop to your image assets to your web page because this will connect your HTML. So as soon as you change it here or Photoshop, Photoshop communicates to your image assets folder. Your image assets folder communicates with your web page. So it's a perfect combination of automating your changes. Okay, really smart. Okay, guys. So that's what I wanted to share with you today for the main part is generating image assets, creating multiple artboards. And yes, we realize the frame tool is the way to go when you do maneuvering and stuff like that too. Right. Um, so now let me show you where to get more of this image assets resources for you to look into because I don't have it here. I gotta find it here somewhere. If not, I'll copy and paste it for you guys. I know I have it here somewhere. Resources. So it's not under my resources here. Go to my modules. Aha, there it is right here. So it's under. I put it right underneath. I put it right underneath the actual module itself. That's so important. I left it right there for you. So if you like, do me a favor. If you like double click on this, you can copy the URL for that particular tutorial on how to explore more image assets possibilities. So if you copy this, like I can make it a link if you want. Here, let me do that. Make it easier for you. I'm gonna go here and add a link. So I'm gonna create a link for you, and this will be visible. It'll be generating image assets, and that's under automation generating image. I just want to make sure I match the link for you too. So in case you look for it, you're like, where is this thing, right? So it's automate um, generator plugins image assets. So maybe a little screen capture too. So generate, so file automate generator plugins file. There's your path. Okay. So that's how you do it. And the link will show you the possibilities of being quite versatile, of applying many different, like I did with the file size of the JPEG. There's other forms you can do, like sizing, like 100% bigger, 50%. If you do like a mobile responsive version, you can do smaller and bigger images, thumbnail sizes of the same thing. It covers so much more than what I can show you in that tutorial. But I showed you like a good breadth of it, like at least a good half for you to use for your project, which is what you need. But if you want to take it a step further, this can show you more than just that one thing, okay? So that's the path on how to get there. File, automate, did I spell it right? Generator, plugin, image assets. File, automate, generator, plugins, image assets. All right. So let me go ahead and save this right now, and you can go ahead and let me just open a new window. Sure. All right, so you can now click on this link right here under today's module. Okay, click on that link and it should open up this beautiful page of showing you all the possibilities. So you can generate JPEG, PNG, GIF, or SVG image assets from content layer. Just the path is different. This is an older tutorial. Oh, it's 2024. It's not that old, but it works. And yeah, it's got some examples there, stuff we did with groups. So these groups here, they also have different paths, right? you can make subfolders. You can put a folder and a subfolder if you like. That's kind of cool, actually. Let me quickly show you that. Let's say I want to put these images in a subfolder, right? So if I want to put the subfolder there, I'm basically gonna put, well, I gotta go through each one and put the subfolder, to be honest with you. But let's do the sneakers, for example. So I'm gonna put a subfolder, and the backslash. So if I do the same thing for, let's say this and this one here and this one here. So I put a subfolder / and then the image name. It'll basically put those images in a subfolder. I don't know if you want to put subfolders in your website, but sometimes if it helps you organize it better, it might help you. Okay. And that's another little trick you can use. Let me just put this one as well. Right? So what that will do obviously is this exact example of what this is going to show you. Yeah, there's a subfolder. Okay, so you're gonna call it something else, but if it's a subfolder, and if I open up the subfolder, guess what? There's the 4 images I nested under that subfolder. Right? Very, very powerful stuff here, guys. Okay, so you can definitely do all these cool things in the image assets generating thing. All right, what else it has? Web design case, um, use case. Okay, more images. Everything I showed you is pretty much, regurgitated here. With like, remember I did the percentage, 50%. So you can control quality of your JPEGs. You can put widths and heights. You can actually force constrain images. So I think for that one, you have to put the dimension. You can put inches and pixels. You can mix them up. The default is pixels. You can actually resize the elements, put a dimension in front of the name. It'll do just that. I don't know if it's gonna work right now. I'll try it out though. So you can do 8, 24, 32. That's the bit depth. So PNG 24 means millions of colors. If you put PNG 8, it'll be hundreds of colors and things like that as well. So that's pretty cool. Let me try the dimensions for the rectangle here. Just want to make sure all the stuff works up to date. So this SVG, the footer SVG file, let me make it a 300 space by a 300. So I just typed in 300 by 300 because it's pixels by default. I'm not going to put PX. I'm just going to leave it alone because I put the dimensions before it. And this works on JPEGs and PNGs and, of course, SVG files. This should be 300 by 300 now. Unless I have to put pixels. Do this one here. 200 by 200. Right. So it does work. I just made this image 200 by 200. Look how notice how it's constrained. So I forced it to become exactly that size. So you can literally go in Photoshop and when you want to resize something for whatever reason, maybe could be a design element or something. You don't want to do this with images, it'll distort them obviously, but you do have the power to resize them by putting a dimension as well. Okay, so that's another powerful feature here. All right, so if you just read through this, you can go through all the different possibilities, but I covered most of the good ones. Okay, so it's there for you. There's the link. You can click on it and you can do that. All right, and these are just examples of other possibilities I did with another example of the website. You can check those out as well. Okay, so next week we're gonna start the motion design class, and we have 2 classes left. So even the last class, we'll utilize that class to do some more motion design. So it'll be really, really fun. And I will release that assignment for you. You should be able to do that one in, that same week. So you can just, I'll give you like an extra week like I normally do for the assignment. So all you have left for me to do is one assignment, and that's next week. Keep working on your website composite for now, because that's due at the end of the semester, and that's your last, call it a big project. And that's all you have left for me, okay? And I'm sure the other classes as well. You don't have too many things. Alrighty, so I think that's it for now. I'm gonna stop the recording now and wrap things up. And if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to come back and answer them. Let me just quickly say the goodbye formalities. And all right, so again, thank you for watching. Hope you had fun in this class. We covered a lot of important material when it came to optimizing images for your website, and even generating proper image assets with different configurations. So please, watch the video again if you need to. Click on the link to get more information, and I'll see you in the next class. Take care and bye for now.
I have a question. So, like, regarding on the assignments, what you demonstrated, like, is it the same artboard